That's brilliant. Thanks, Becky. I'm glad someone pointed that out. I've just realised that I've been whittering on for the last 10 minutes and giving you an introduction without having the mic turned on. I did that in a test as well, surprisingly. I'm really sorry about that. Right, so let's all start again. Josie is not here today. It's me on my own. My name's Chris. I came on a few weeks ago as a guest doing some technical stuff about parkour and how to get your character from one place to another. Yeah, sorry guys, I'm really sorry for doing that. Yeah, so basically today's show is just going to be me. Josie's a bit laid up. She's been sent a bit mad, I think, by me joining the crew. I think more than anything. But yeah, she's got a bad back. If you've watched any of the shows, you'll have already known that. The show is probably going to be quite short today, and there's not many people. You know, if you guys have got anything that you want to ask me or anything that you want to contribute, feel free. I'll put it out on the air. Be nice to me, please. Be nice to me. Say what you want about the beard, but you know, that's for you guys. Right. So yeah, I did just say all this, unfortunately, but I'll have to repeat it all. My name's Chris. I'm from a studio called Nineteenstone Ninjas. I'm helping Josie out with the Datamine. Datamine is all about sharing. It's all about helping other indie devs out. And yeah, so I'm in the middle of developing an indie game myself in my spare time. Full time, I'm a professional software developer, but in my spare time, I do a game called Subnet. Subnet's a parkour, stealth, and hacking first-person game. It's a long-term project. There's going to be there's quite a few people involved in my team, and that's basically what I'm going to be talking about today. Teams, how to manage your team, how to stay motivated when you work remotely. I'm going to be focusing on the remote side of things because I work remotely professionally. It's not the weather for having a beard in this room, I tell you. I don't know if you can see all the light coming from there, but I've got a south-facing window. I've had to turn my fan off and close all the windows. It's absolutely boiling in here. So by the end of it, if I'm dripping, I really apologise. Yeah, so I said I manage a small team of indie developers, mainly artists, but they're across the world. I've got 2 guys in America on my team, and I've also got I've got 3 guys in America. I've got a composer as well in America. We're kind of working out workflow issues at the moment. That's kind of where we're at. We're kind of bouncing off each other and trying to figure out what is the best way to get a model, for example, into the game. And there's quite a lot of, like, we use Unity for the engine, and there's quite a lot of specific things that we need to do with Unity to actually get things into the engine and get them working, and the modelers and the artists have to get involved in that. Again, bigger teams, you may have more of a structured system where you've got someone who does that kind of import workflow stuff, and you've got modelers that just do the modeling, and you've got programmers that just do the programming. But as an indie dev, you just cannot do that. It's not possible. So yeah, that's what I'm going to attempt to talk to today. And if you guys have anything that you want to say, please throw it back at me. First of all, I just wanted to talk about the benefits of working at home. Obviously, you've got a lot of flexibility when you're at home. It's not all great, don't get me wrong, because you do go a little bit crazy sometimes. You have distraction issues at times. Personally, I'm quite disciplined, but not everybody is, and you need to be aware of that, especially when you're managing a team externally. In terms of the flexibility, I'll go back to that. The flexibility that we've got is I can work anytime I want. I mean, I generally work, and I'm not just trying to make other people feel bad, but I generally work from 7 in the morning until 11 at night, and much to the disapproval of my wife, I tend to do that a lot of the time. But that's because I'm enjoying it. If I'm not enjoying it, or it is just work for you, bearing in mind that I do normal development during the day, and then I do my indie development during the night. Not everyone can do that. You know, if you're doing it full time, you're getting paid to do an indie job. You're in working in a company, but you're remote, then you might have to work 9 till 5 or whatever hours that those people work. It may be that you don't need to actually do the exact same time that they're working. It may be that they're in a different time zone. That's one of the things that one of the issues that we have is we've got people in 3 different time zones, potentially more than that if you've got people from Europe or people from India or Australia. I mean, I was speaking to an animator who works in Australia a few weeks ago, and he would not be up when we're up. Either of us, he just would not be available to come on and collaborate while we're going. So yeah, I mean, you can very easily make. I mean, if any of you guys work at home as well, or if any of you guys have people that work at home, I'd be interested to hear your feedback, because I'm a little bit neurotic sometimes about working at home. Sometimes I worry that people think I'm not doing work, or people think that I'm not doing enough, and then the repercussion of that is that I will do more work because I think that they think I'm not working, if that makes sense. It's all mind games, but it does affect you a little bit, and you get a little bit of cabin fever. You get a little bit like, oh, I've got to get out of here, I've got to go and do something. But at the same time, I quite enjoy my own company, and I quite enjoy the concentration that I get from working in my own time on my own projects. It depends again. If you've got kids, you've got animals, you've got a spouse that's coming in and speaking to you every 5 minutes or anything like that, then it is a bit more difficult to concentrate at home. But having a place that you can, like an office, a room that you can lock yourself in and just get on with things, then that's what you need. I would not recommend someone working at home if they're just going to work on a laptop in the front room. It's not going to work. You just can't. It's just not productive. I mean, I've got a nice setup here. I've got my music when I want it. I've got my webcam. All I need to do is flip a switch, and I'm speaking to somebody on the other side of Skype, etc. Things like that. It's one of those things that not everybody can do, or not everyone can do immediately. You might need to train yourself into it. You might need to get used to it. Personally, I also like working at home because of working in an office. To me, sometimes it's not that I find it laborious or anything like that. It's just that people have agendas in terms of they might pull you into meetings more often than you need to be in meetings, and as us geeks are quite susceptible to, you just feel like, I'm not going to say no to this, I'm just going to go ahead with it. So you might spend all day in meetings in an office, and they just drag out, and you're not getting any work done. Whereas at home, people think twice about inviting you to a meeting, and sometimes it takes them to think twice before they realise, I need him for 5 seconds. I need to ask him 1 or 2 questions. Maybe I can do that after the meeting, or maybe I might go on about meetings a little bit, but a lot of the time they're very unproductive, and you need to be careful about how many you have. And when you're at home, you tend to get left out of a lot of that, which I personally like, but again, some other people may not. See, some people have been putting things in chat. I have a really hard time. This is Zumba Pup. Hello, matey. I have a really hard time working with remote people, especially artists. They tend to disappear or stop working on me, even paid ones. Now, that's interesting. I have had exactly the same situation a number of times, not just with artists, animators, as I said, concept artists, modelers. I've never spoken to a programmer in terms of, I've never recruited one or had one on my team. I'm the only person that does that, so I don't know about that side of things. But it's what I tend to do at the moment is, because I'm working on a revenue share rather than paid work, the revenue share kind of gives me less, even though, say for example, right, the game that I'm making makes £1 million. I'm not saying it will. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not that egotistical. Say it makes £1 million, and they're on a 10% profit share or something like that, and they get £100,000 for a couple of couple of years' work. To me, £100,000 for a couple of years' work. As a programmer's been doing it for a while, you know, I earn a fair amount. I'm not. £100,000 for the amount of effort that I'm putting into this game isn't a lot. But there's very little chance that we would get that much. You know, it's more likely to be we'll have a couple of £1,000 at the end of it, at the very most. You know, unless something takes off and it goes crazy. So yeah, the issue with that is that my revenue share means that I don't have as much control over someone. I'm not paying them. And you say, ZumbaPup, you say that you've done it with even paid people, and that's a bit more shocking to me. Everybody that I've paid for anything in this kind of situation, they've been quite good with me. I've been quite open and honest with them, and they've been, if they've got to have a lull in activity, they let me know. I tend to find getting up close and personal with them, as in talking to them on Skype face to face, is one of the best things you can do, because they tend to have a little bit more of a connection with you than if you're just talking over text. It's a little harder to kind of maintain it. I tend to write big, long, laborious emails, and I think maybe some people don't want that much detail in some things. I'm just trying to kind of get them in I need them to understand how we work, because we can't pay people, we can't go full time on it, we are part time. Everyone needs to be aware of that. Everyone needs to be aware that there's going to be lulls in productivity at times. I see Gwint. Hello Gwint, how you doing, mate? You say you love working from home, but you wouldn't want to do it all the time. Again, I've met people that done that. I've met people that can't concentrate when they're at home. There's too many other things for them to do. But this is why I say lock myself in a room and be disciplined. Just sit there. If you're not doing any work, have a brew, come back to it and try again. Get yourself comfortable. Make sure it's not too warm. Like at the moment, I'm boiling. But you know, when I'm working, I've got the windows open. When there's noise outside, I have to close the windows. You know, it's the kind of thing that I need to keep my concentration going all the time. I personally would work from home every day of the year. I love it. I love the fact that I've got the freedom to start work early or start work late, or even that. I don't even mind when I start. People can tell me when I start work. I don't mind that. It's the fact that I can get up, have a shower, get dressed, get into the flow of work. And that's another thing. Getting yourself ready for work is a really big thing. If you work at home, get ready for work. Don't just sit back. Don't just pretend that you're working and you're in your dressing. No. Get ready for work. Be ready for someone to call you on the webcam. Be ready for going. You know, if you need to be called into the meeting, or you need to go and see a client, or you need to go to an expo or something, or whatever thing you're doing, get involved with it. I'm doing a lot of talking about working at home, but I'm not doing much talking about the team side of things. Let me just have a quick look, see what else other people have said. Yeah, this is from Becky, or Beaky. Self-control is very important. I work in the living room. Oh, the living room. Nice. Is that the bedroom? The living room? I work in the living room, I assume. Wife, kids around. If I need privacy, you're moved to a private room. Exactly what I've basically just been saying. I personally couldn't work. I mean, when I'm doing my indie dev, I do sometimes go downstairs with a laptop and work and watch telly with the missus. I don't get much done when I do that, but I still do get bits done. You know, it's not as productive because I'm not concentrating on it, especially when I'm coding, because it's quite cerebral coding. You know, you have to get inside yourself, and I imagine art's a bit like that as well. You know, you have to be a bit more controlled about the time that you spend doing things. Yeah, missing ZumbaPup again, missing the banter from an office. You guys are pretty much, that's brilliant. I'm glad you're joining in, because I was a bit worried. I've made loads and loads of notes about all the things that I can talk to, but you're saying the same things that I was going to talk about. But yeah, ZumbaPup says again, I miss banter from working in the office. This is, I understand where you're coming from. There's a lot of people who say the same thing. I've got a few contractor friends who do the same. That they don't like working at home because they like to come in and talk to people and get involved and things like that. And again, while that's fine, I again used to be very much like into the social aspect of work, but these days I don't know, these days I just want to get my work done and have my own social life, because I've got my own things going on. You know, I don't necessarily want to get involved with work. It's not that it's kind of hard to say without it coming across in a bad way. It's not that I don't like people at work. It's that I'm old enough now to have plenty of friends and plenty of social things going on, and it's yeah. I think I just prefer to separate them entirely. But I understand. I totally understand that. I love banter as well, but getting it to a point where I don't know. I wouldn't miss it. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I don't miss the banter. I do like it when I'm in the office, but I don't miss it. So Becky, Beaky or Becky again says we have business hours. That's 4 hours when everyone has to be online. 4 hours is quite small, but I mean I'm used to having a 7 hour day for working with people. But I understand that you've got core hours and you've got flexi time around that. Again, brilliant way of doing it. If I'm the team lead, so it's up to me really when I want to be online. But I'm always online. I'm always available for people. I Skype with the artists almost every day. So yeah, it's a bit. I don't know. It's different for everyone's. Every role that you take in whatever you're doing. I'm kind of speaking from my professional world because I do remote work professionally as well as indie. But if I focus on the indie stuff is to me it's a bit easier to manage because what I tend to do for my recruitment is I'll put an advert out or someone will show interest, however they come in. I'll spend a while emailing back and forth, and I'll try and establish their personality if they can communicate very well. Because communication is I can't describe how important being a good communicator in whatever language your team is speaking is. I've had a few people like European people who've come along and they've been okay written, but as soon as I've spoken to them, they just don't get the mannerisms. They don't get, and it makes me feel a bit bad because I can't understand their language, but I'm a typical English, ignorant English person who doesn't speak anything but English. It's a horrible situation to be in, but at the same time, we're not, the Dutch, for example, they speak a million different languages and get on with, other countries, but I don't know, in England, we don't tend to put much focus on that. And I'm not saying, again, there isn't people that do that, because there is, but, I'm kind of typical in that sense. Helps that you can have a lie in and stay in your pajamas. You see, that's what I was saying. Stay out of that. You're all getting involved today. Yeah, the time zone thing. What tends to happen with us? This is Becky's comment saying you've worked with different time zones, and you tried to make a 30 to 60 minute sync time with work hours overlapping. What we don't have anything set, and we can't, again, because it's a revenue share. It's kind of best endeavours most times. There's a whole subject there with the revenue share, but I'll try not to go too far into it. But yeah, when it comes to the working times, what happens is I tend to work from my AM till, at the moment I'm working till maybe about 5 o'clock because I've got other things going on. So I work until about 5 o'clock. Sometimes it's later, but and then that's about the time that my American, like East Coast American team members come online. They get online, but that's when they wake up. Now, some of them, or one of them in particular, he does a day job, so he's working during the day, and he then comes on about 9 or 10 o'clock at my time. So by 9 or 10 o'clock, even if I have been working all day, it's very rare that I'll still be full flow by then. I'll be winding down, The other one, he works full time on this because he's in a decent situation at home. He's got the time to work on it, and he kind of works 6 hours from 9 o'clock Eastern Coast time or Eastern Standard Time or whatever it is to 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And then by the time he's finished, the next developer the next modeler comes on, the one who's got the day job. And then around about that time, that's when the guy in California wakes up and he might get involved. But the way that we work is we tend to use things like Google Groups, email, obviously. Google Groups sends out emails to everybody in the team. So what you do with Google Groups is you set up a group, you add all your team members, and then it's like a forum. It's like a really basic forum. I said basic. There's actually a lot of stuff in it, but can set tasks in it, or we don't use the task management side of it, but you can use it, and you can also start threads. So we have a thread, say for example, about some concept art that we're working on at the moment. We've got a thread that discusses the concept art. Everybody gets emailed about it, and everybody knows about it. It's their prerogative then to read that email thread and keep up to date with what they want to keep up to date with. Everyone is then involved with all of the conversations. I personally think that's a really great thing, because you're not missing people out on your BCC, and everybody gets to know almost everything that goes on. I try and keep, even though we do talk on Skype and we do have face-to-face conversations on webcams, Google Hangouts and things like that, I still try and keep it to a minimum. It's more personal then. It's more of a, how you doing, mate? How's life, etc., etc. We might talk a little bit about things. If we need to niggle something out, then we'll do that over the webcam. But when it comes to the more detailed specifications, I'd prefer to have them written down, because then everybody sees it. I'm sorry if there's pauses. Unfortunately, there's no one to keep me going while I read your comments. Gwent says, I think it depends greatly on what on who you're working for, what the project is, the individual, and on what the home situation is like. Absolutely, yes. You can control a lot of it. I think a lot of it comes down to confidence with the remote worker more than anything. I did mention briefly earlier that I worry a little bit. Maybe I mentioned it, maybe it's just in my notes and I haven't yet got to it. But I do worry a little bit sometimes of what other people think of me that on the team. I don't worry with the indie dev stuff, because the indie dev stuff is really relaxed, and we tend to like bounce off each other and keep each other motivated. There is a few people, as someone mentioned earlier, that don't do as much work, or don't put as much effort in. I like to think that it's a situational thing, and as they get out of certain situations, like for example, one person in my team is moving at the moment, and he's very keen and very enthusiastic, but he may it could go either way. We don't know yet. We're hoping that when he comes back, he's going to be more on the team and kind of getting more involved with the day-to-day stuff. But at the moment he's very quiet because he doesn't have a computer, basically. And you have to be flexible with that, if you're paying people, then it's different. I think you've got a little bit more investment in them, and they've got a bit more responsibility to you. Whereas with the profit share, it's best endeavours. We want to get things done. If someone loses motivation, they kind of drop out of the profit share. Everything they've done stays with us. We don't have to take it out unless we kick them out, if that makes sense. There's a whole raft of contract obligations and things going on there. I could go into that if anyone's interested, in terms of how we work contractually with the indie dev stuff. Let's have a look. What have we got? Yeah, again, you're right. It does totally depend, Gwent, on how your home situation is. I mean, my wife is she doesn't work. She's always in the house, but she leaves me to it, and I should spend a lot more time with her, really. I do go down, every few hours and say hello and have a brew and stuff. But yeah, it's kind of if you're going to get disturbed all the time, home working's not going to be good for you. Just reading some longer comments here. Sorry, guys. See, that's an interesting one, Zumba Pup. I guess my experience has been that most of the better guys I've worked with over the years on revenue share models, etc., have been hired by AA devs, AAA devs, at some point and left the team. Now, that's interesting. Personally, I have been looking for people who aren't looking for AAA work, because we're not an AAA studio. We're trying to be as high fidelity as possible. I'm giving people challenges and interesting stuff to do, but mostly, for the most part anyway, I've been speaking to people who are amateurs, who are people who don't have the skills to get into an A studio. They, you know, like say for example, a modeler that can't texture, or a modeler that can't do UV mapping, or an animator that can't do rigging and skinning. These are all things that a AAA would probably expect from an employee. Some people want to get into the games dev full time. Personally, I don't. I'm not into that. I prefer to be self-employed in any respect. Indie dev is a hobby for me, and indie dev is something that I want to get into. Indie dev specifically, not game development, indie development, because there's a distinct difference between the amount of control you have over the final product and the amount of people that are involved in it as well. I wouldn't want to be a name or a number, you know, a number in working at Rockstar or something like that. It's not that I've got anything. I'm sure they produce awesome games. You know, these are studios. That's where we get most of the mainstream entertainment from. But it's just personally, I prefer to have more control over what I'm doing and prefer to be more creative. I think that's probably the key thing. I prefer the creative control over not necessarily the game. I mean, because I want other people in my team to have creative control as well. But I want us to be, for want of a better word, and I wish I could come up with one, I want us to be a bit of a family. Sounds horrible saying that. It sounds like I'm on EastEnders family. But, you know, it's like I kind of... That's what I do want. I want us to be a team. I want us to be all invested in each other and all kind of aiming for the same thing, you know, singing off the same shit, the hymn sheet. ZumbaPup says, I think maybe sometimes it depends on what the aims of the person is. Many artists seem to want to work at Blizzard, etc. So they are working on indie stuff for a portfolio. Yeah, that's the same. I have a lot of people that come to me, send me emails, apply for jobs and say that they just want portfolio work, which is fine for me, but I want people who are going to invest in the long term, who maybe aren't going to disappear, and if they do get a full-time job, or if they've already got a full-time job, that they can still contribute. The problem is that I can't afford to go indie. I have responsibilities, financial and personal, that want to let me do that, to go full-time. If I was in a different situation, I would have dropped my full-time job, my full-time freelance work rather, and just went indie and just give it a go and tried it. But I can't. Not everyone is in that situation, though. That's the problem. So they're working on indie stuff for the portfolio. So when they get hired, they leave. I've not yet found a true partner for art stuff, which is what I'd really like to find. When I originally started our indie studio, which is Nineteenstone Ninjas, by the way, if I notice that my name's not on there, we're on Twitter on @19ninjas, by the way, if you're interested. Yeah, when I first started the studio, we didn't even have a studio name or anything like that. It was just me and a friend talking on Skype. And my friend, I mean, I've got a lot of respect for the guy, professionally as well as a friend. He's been a good friend for years. And we bounced off each other. He was going to be the art guy. I was going to be the programming guy. We were both going to get involved in both, basically. I mean, we were just going to have leads on each side. And as the ideas came out and we got more and more and more and more involved in the design process, it kind of got to a point where he needed to get a full-time job. He couldn't afford to do this full-time. I was doing it part-time, and I was planning to do that all along. And he had to go and get a job, so unfortunately he couldn't balance them both, and he's got another game going on as well. So that was the situation there. We didn't fall out over it or anything like that. He still speaks to me. I still tell him probably more than I should do about the game, you know, because I'm that close to him. But he's a good friend, you know. It's different there. But yeah, I understand what you're saying when it comes to partner. I wanted to find someone who I could bounce off. I'd be honest with you, the two modelers in my team are both very they're very open to collaboration, and very open to bouncing ideas off each other, and open to criticism so far as well. We've not annoyed each other. And one of them in particular, we've been working together for nearly a year now. The other one is maybe a few months, but I can see a good relationship forming, and it's just one of those things. Each individual is different, you know. I've recently, unfortunately, had to I didn't have to do anything actually. Unfortunately, one of the concept artists on our team decided to drop out because of personal issues, and she needed a bit of a push. She needed kind of someone to tell her what work to do and how to do it, and be a bit more of a boss. The problem I have with that at the moment is that as an indie dev, I don't have time to be a boss. I don't have time to sit someone down and go, right, we need to do an appraisal. And it's not. It doesn't really work with indie dev. You're all either in it and enjoying it, or what's the point? Or in my eyes, anyway. I know there's a lot of indie devs that do it professionally and maybe don't enjoy it so much anymore. But I do it for the enjoyment, and I do it for, for loving the love of the game, love of coding, love of learning. I tell you, the amount of learning that's involved in getting into game dev, even though I've been a programmer for 16 years, it's still a big learning curve. Right, so yeah, we've talked about some of the benefits. We've talked about some of the challenges. I've got a whole list of benefits and challenges here, so I'll see if there's ones that we haven't that you guys haven't already picked up on. One of the this is I made a note saying one of the things about working at home, one of the things about remote working is your carbon footprint. Now I don't know how many other I'm not a hippie, at the end of the day I want to preserve the environment. I'm not someone who goes around and gets involved in protests and things like that, but when it comes to your carbon footprint, you are still very much I have to travel 50 miles a day each way to go to my current client. Usually it's at least 100 miles a day that I have to travel, and the amount of fuel that uses, it's obviously cheaper for me in the long run, but on top of that, the environment, the carbon footprint, etc., that you're outputting. Again, I don't know if any of you guys actually, but then again, yeah, someone just oh, sorry, I actually read that wrong. Zumbapup just said, I honestly don't have the energy to tell someone else exactly what to do either. It's not the energy thing, it's the amount of time I have. It's the fact that I can't actually I can't do all of the things that I need to do. So having to manage someone as well and tell them what to do. I mean, I write briefs, don't get me wrong, and I tell people roughly what to do, but I want them to take the reins and go, how about this? How about this? What about this? And my modelers tend to do that, they tend to get to that. And concept artists, that's their job at the end of the day. So, concept art's great as well. But yeah, sorry, I actually misread your comment then, and I thought you were referring to the carbon footprint thing I just said. You said energy, and I read it as using more energy at home. But you are, yeah. I've got my computer and 3 screens running and speakers and everything else that's plugged in. I'm pretty sure that it's still a lot less. I know you didn't say this, but I'm pretty sure that it's still a lot less than what it would be if I was traveling to work every single day. 100 miles a day is considerably more than that. Yeah, again, there's all kinds of people in Zumba Pups just said, I guess I'm not used to working with people who know what they're doing. I've got a lot of time for people who want to learn, but I don't have much time for people who want to be told what to do. If you want to come in to my studio and you don't know much, you need to know some fundamentals. Don't get me wrong. So if you come in as an animator, I want to see some animation clips, and I want to see some maybe some knowledge of IKs, or how to rig something, or so at least some understanding and some willingness to learn as well. Because if you don't know it all, you've got to appreciate that you've got to put a lot of effort in before you actually get to a point where you're confident enough to get your AAA job. There's so much before that, so much to come up. Thank you. I need to. Gwynsa said I need to conserve energy and divert it to growing the epic beard. Yeah, I a lot of my time goes into the beard. I can't. Yeah, it's. I'm trying not to trim it down at the moment, but it's just too bloody hot at the moment for it. Right, so let's see what else I've got on this list. I was going to go through it in order, but you guys have been more than friendly with me, so I'm quite relaxed now about it all. So we talked about staying motivated, being disciplined about your work. I believe even if you've got a house that's full of noise and full of kids and animals and things going on, I still believe that you could have a place to lock yourself in, and it's a personal thing as well. It's a personal motivation. You have to do the. You have to tell people to leave you alone. You can do it in a nice way. You don't have to go. You don't have to be nasty. You just say, look, guys, I'm working. I need to concentrate. You'll have plenty of time because you're at home. You've got plenty of time to spend with them. They just need to appreciate that you're getting paid to do what you're doing. Maybe. Excuse me. Excuse me. Right. So there's one other thing as well with working at home. There's the and you as a team leader, I see this a few times. Frustrations from other team members when other team members maybe don't give them things. Like, for example, one of my modelers was waiting for concept art, and the concept artist was not responsive. It's very, very frustrating because I've left them to get on with it themselves. But I have to. If someone doesn't tell me, I don't know about it. But if someone does tell me, I get involved and I try and resolve the problem one way or the other as the team leader. I'm fine doing that. Again, I'm fine speaking to anyone on any level about anything to do with the project, whether it be personal or professional. But people need to inform you. This is where the communication comes back in as well. Communication is the number one tool that you have as a remote worker to make people aware that you are working, to make them confident in the fact that you are going to deliver when you say you're going to deliver. If it matters. Our team, it doesn't matter. Our indie team, it doesn't matter. We're just playing it by ear and just getting as much done as we can. There's always work going on. But, I mean, I've had a few deadlines by, for example, my character modeler. He's told me a few things, but he's had computer problems. He's had to reinstall his computer and other things like that. And it's like, if this was money dependent, then yes. If there was a budget involved, I would be all over it. In fact, I'd probably have an office, to be fair, with people working there. Maybe. I don't know. Again, it's one of those things that you play by ear, don't you? If everyone has to be part of the team, everyone has to be involved and invested, and at least tell people when they're not available. So if you're going on a 2-week holiday, even if you are a remote worker and you're not getting paid anything, even if you're not on a revenue share, if you're working with someone, if you're working with a friend on a personal project and there's no contracts or anything like that, just let them know that you're going away. Just let them know that you're ill. It's a lot easier than people make out. It's like, well, I'm not going to judge you because you can't work today. I'm not going to tell you off for not get. I'm going to be miffed. The longer that you spend not communicating with me, the more assumptions I'm going to be making. And when you finally do make some communication with me, I'm not going to be very receptive to you. To whatever issues you've had. I'm just going to be, well, you haven't told me anything. I'm just being sire. The rest of the team have been relying on you, and there's nothing. Again, it's one of those things you can't really accuse people, but you need to give ultimatums, and you need to be like, right, can you do this or not? Is this interesting enough to you for you to put time aside in your personal life to do this, or can you do it during the day? If you haven't got a job or whatever. It's so many different people, there's so many different situations. You have to be so flexible with it. Hey, right, friend. That's quite good, Zumba Pop. I had a friend who used to have to wear a special hat when he was working at home. He said it helped him to get in the working mindset when he had that trigger after he put it on. Okay, go for it. My working mind, that might be that might be the same as me getting a shower, having an hour to get ready on a morning, getting a shower, getting breakfast, getting dressed, coming in here, turning my computer on, opening up my programs that I'm using that day, and getting involved. That's me. That's my hat. So maybe it's just similar. It sounds a bit daft, I'll be honest, but it's if it works for you, it works. Yes, Silico, exactly. It is personal motivation. If you, if you think that you need to do something, then either do it and make sure you can do it. So see if you think you need to be in an office, or you think that you need to be sat out in the garden on your laptop to work, then make sure you're doing that. And when you're there, be critical of yourself. Be honest with yourself as well when you're working at home. Don't be presumptuous, and don't be like, oh, I'm going to have to I'll have to go and make another brew, and or I can't concentrate yet. I need to wait for this email to come in. It's all excuses. Get on with your work. Don't faff around. But yeah, you say Stephen King wrote "Carry in a Closet." Brilliant. It's exactly the kind of thing that I'm talking about. You don't have to be comfortable. In fact, sometimes some writers, some actors, method actors, things like that, they like to be uncomfortable in order to get themselves in the mindset. And why is working on an indie game any different from that kind of thing? It's a creative process. Actors are creating, method actors are creating things in their brains. They're creating characters, whereas we're creating a game. It's similar. It's a creation. It's a creative process. Oh, sorry. Someone's just been timed out in the channel. Naughty. Right. I'm not sure if I've mentioned it, but there was one other thing with remote working: cabin fever. You get a little bit crazy sometimes working at home. You get a little bit, even if you have got a wife downstairs, or you've got animals in the house or kids and stuff. It still gets a little bit closed in at times. Again, I've come to the conclusion that it's a positive mental attitude thing, and it's make sure you go out for a walk after you've finished, or between shifts. Like at 5 o'clock or whatever, go for a walk for an hour and come back. Or not every day, but whenever you need it. If you're starting to feel a little bit demotivated, get yourself in a better frame of mind, I think, and relax. Sometimes you just need a day off. Sometimes you just need. I now work Saturdays and Sundays as well a lot of the time, so sometimes you just need to take that weekend off. I've got a holiday coming up, so I'm ploughing the work until the holiday. Today I haven't done much because I've been concentrating on getting this show in a state that doesn't make it a complete catastrophe. So I've been spending most of today doing that and real work. But yeah, it's kind of you can all kinds of things can go through your head. Like I said, you can worry about what your colleagues think of you. You can worry about, as a team leader, sometimes you can worry about what other people are doing and if they're doing it right and if they're following the right direction. And sometimes you can have maybe 2 or 3 conversations with the same person in a row, and they get a little bit they don't understand where you're coming from, and a Skype call doesn't sort it. And sometimes you're a little bit, there's a bit of motivation issues, but you get through all that. And that all adds to your cabin fever. That all adds to the fact that you are going to worry about, sometimes you worry about what you're going to have for dinner, because I don't know, it's a bit weird. If you've been working at home for a long time, you do need that human interaction occasionally. But I kind of get that from this. I kind of get my human interaction from my Skype calls, from my Twitter interactions, from my I don't do loads of it, don't get me wrong, but when I do need a bit of a reprieve, I'll open up Twitter, TweetDeck or something like that, and I'll get involved with people on there and try and get into other people's conversations, forget about what I'm doing for the time being, go and speak to my wife, go and have a walk with the wife or something like that, something to keep you a little bit loose, I think. So yeah, to be fair, this is all kind of melded into one. I was going to try and structure this a little bit better, but it was this is because you guys have been so receptive. It's kind of all come together. The next thing I was going to talk about was managing remote workers. What kind of things to expect from them. Again, we've covered most of this. One of my first notes is that we've all got different personalities at the end of the day, and we all need to kind of accept that other people have got a different personality, and that some people are going to need a bit more egging on and pushing, and some people are going to need a attaboy occasionally. Some people are quite happy on their own and they never need to speak to you. Personally, that kind of person is probably more dangerous than someone who speaks to you all the time, who doesn't have much experience, because they might get carried away and they might go off and do something that is completely outside of the scope of what you were talking about. And it's happened to me a few times in this project, and I've done it myself. I've went off and written entire software systems where and I've been, it's took me a week to do 3 weeks work that would normally do in an office. It'd normally take me in an office. But I've kind of come up with this monster that caters for everything in this situation, and it's either way too much work, or I've completely veered off course, and that's a big danger. And you, as a team manager, always should be kind of not bugging people, but be aware of what they're doing. Not necessarily every day, again, as a remote worker, but I mean, every day is great if you can do that. And again, if you're paying people and it's a wage thing, then yeah, probably every day is the best thing. Have a team meeting every morning, or just a 5-minute agile team meeting or something, a stand-up where you just say, this is what I've done, this is what I'm going to do, these are my aims, and everyone else is at least aware of what you're up to, and that's all you need. One of the things I do with our team is on Sundays at the moment, it's the best day for everybody. We have a 7 p.m, we have a team meeting over Google Groups, and I record the team meeting while we're doing it, and we all just, again, briefly, it might take an hour or two or whatever, but we briefly go over everything that we're doing. We talk through any issues. If there are not everyone turns up all the time, but we do try, and even some people have changed their work shifts in order to get to these meetings, which is really, really appreciated. It's really cool that they've done that. But I'd never expect people to do that. But unfortunately, with all the time zones, you have to kind of make a time and set to it. Otherwise, you're never going to have. It's like the show. If we said we were going to do it at 1 o'clock every Thursday, but we decided one Thursday we'll move it around, we wouldn't get as many viewers. We wouldn't. It wouldn't be as. We wouldn't get as much concentration from people, or not as many people would turn up. And the same happens with a team meeting. You're not going to get as many people turn up if you don't have a set time. Even if some people can't make that every single week or at all, then they're just going to have to watch the video and update people manually. There has to be some kind of structure in some respects. We're kind of starting the team meeting thing this week. Hopefully is the first one that we're going to get a proper good one, a proper good session in. Previously, it's been, the last couple of weeks we haven't had one. Previous weeks to that we had one or two, but it's kind of, it's one of those things that takes time to establish itself. Hey Derp, how you doing? Just reading some of the comments again. Yeah, as Becky said, it's a communication thing. Everyone has got everyone else's Skype. There's nothing stopping someone going up to someone else and saying what you're up to today, what you're on with. Personally, whenever I do check up on people, I'm not checking up on them. I'm not in a well, why haven't you done this? It's more of a, what are you up to? Is there anything I can help with? Are there any blockers? Do I need to maybe get the concept artist to do some concept art for you? Do I need maybe to do some? I need to block something out in the game and export it for you and give you something, or things like that. And it's a collaborative thing. There's also a lot of times when people in the office, or on the other side of the fence, don't communicate back. If you don't get at least a, sorry, I'm busy, I'm in a meeting, sorry, I'm out today, or maybe a shared diary is a good idea. I have thought about doing a shared diary, but maybe just availability and unavailability, but people have to keep that up to date, and it's as well as their own personal diaries and things like that. So there's maybe things like Google Calendar or something you could use, or something that collaborates and syncs everyone's calendars up. I'm sure there's something if you need that. We're in a position where we don't need that, so I'm your new friend, am I? Derp Squad Inc. Derp Squad Inc. There we go, Derp Squad Inc. Sorry, this is going cold. I made it at the very beginning of the show. This is where Josie would normally speak, and I would drink. I say Josie would normally speak, like she never speaks unless she lets me do it all, but it's obviously not the case if you've seen any other shows. So yeah, we've talked about the different types of personalities that people have. We talked briefly about trust. It is a trust thing. I don't feel like my trust has been broken when someone lets me down, and it happens a lot. I mean, I've had a lot of I've had hundreds, I mean literally hundreds of emails from people wanting to join the studio on a revenue share. The vast majority, they don't have enough experience at all. I mean, they don't know how to do anything, or they've just got a game idea, or they've contacted me about something that's like a position that's already filled. I've had quite a lot of composers, for example. They send a lot of emails asking for work, but we've already got Ryan to do that for us. And it's a lot of people would feel if someone doesn't do something in time or whatnot. I'm quite flexible, really, personally, but you still need some structure. You still need to get the right people on your team that you can trust. And as I said, things like lack of communication, that diminishes your trust, and it stops you from kind of like trusting them. One other thing as well, how to allocate work to people. There's lots of different management styles out there. I'm by no means a manager. I've been a team leader a few times. I've had plenty of options to go into management in my professional life, but it's not something that I particularly enjoy. I always love to be hands-on. I want to be doing things, or designing things at least. I like to be on the shop floor. I like to be involved with people. I don't mind being the dominant lead or anything like that. I don't mind. That's okay. I can help people out and tell them I'm not an expert on anything. I think anyone who says they're an expert on anything is lying, because you're not. You're always learning. There's always new developments. Even if you're an expert in cryogenics or something, and there's only one or two of you in the world, and there's those people they're always still learning. There's always new things for them to bring out. They might be the leading expert, but there's still more. So I've got a bit of a problem with saying you're an expert in a team, and you can always learn off each other. I've learned so much from my team, and they've learned so much from me. We've learned so much working in the engine. There's going to be other engines that have got different quirks and things that you need to do to get things in them properly. And there's so much involved in it. It is the right team members. Either do it all yourself or get the right team. And I mean, I spent a year looking for the right people, so a year and a bit, but it doesn't work out. It works out less than you'd think. I've got 5 people from hundreds that have matched all the criteria that I needed for this particular project. So it's a long slog, but if you want your project to come to fruition and you need someone to do that, then yes, you're going to need to plow through a lot of what's the term, wheat from the chaff or something like you know what I mean. It's you have to plow through a lot of people who maybe aren't up to standards. However, at the same time, if you're someone who doesn't think you're up to standards, there is no harm in sending an email. If someone sends me an email and they're enthusiastic and they say they're honest about it, it's not a cookie cutter template, and it's not I've just graduated university, I'm looking for work. I'm not interested in those kind of people because they're just looking for experience. They're not looking for a project to get the teeth into, to invest in, and that's what everyone else on the team is. So that's where we're coming from. You see, I see some more questions pop up, so let me get to this. Used to have Jira with Greenhopper at my former company. We're Redmine at this one, but there's Trello as well. Now, Jira is a change management system, I believe, or it's a bug tracking system or something to that effect. I have seen it. I've been suggested it a few times, but I've not used it. I imagine Greenhopper's the same. I've not heard of that. And Redmine, again, that's another one I've not heard of. But Trello is an online message board, and it's very similar to TweetDeck if you've seen it, but it's a bit more organised, and you can allocate things to teams and different people. One of my clients in real life, they use Trello. Not so much at the moment, but they have used it quite extensively in the past. There's lots of tools. I've got a list of tools actually that we use for that we use. I'll get onto a little bit later. Chris, have you noticed there are 1 million composers, musicians who will work for a revenue share compared to the number of artists who will? I suspect it's something to do with the artists being more able to get freelance work. No. Yeah, sorry, yes, I have noticed that, but no, I disagree that it's because the artists are able to get freelance work, because there is a huge demand, but there is also a huge amount of artists. I have maybe or six close friends. Maybe seven close friends, I'd say. 5 of those are artists. They've all got permanent jobs. One's a freelance, or was a freelancer, but he went permanent. But when it comes to game dev, again, there's such a wide spectrum of artists out there. There's such a wide spectrum of quality and what you can get for your money. My current concept artist is, I would consider, very cheap. Not because of the quality, because his quality is amazing. I think he's not had much work, or he's not had many projects. Again, I can't really state because I don't know that much about his workflow, but I know that he has other freelance work on as well as ours. But I just let him get on with it, and it's quite relaxed, and it sometimes takes weeks and weeks and weeks for us to get a piece of concept art. Sometimes I need to push him, sometimes I don't, but there are other artists who will plow stuff out, like they will just plow it out like it was free, and that, while that's appreciated, and I'd love that in our team, I find it very hard to find someone who's capable of that, and capable of the workflow stuff, who understands what a game needs. New artists who are trying to get into game development, they don't understand that you need multiple layers for your concept art. You need multiple so when I say layers, I mean, so you may do a final paint of a piece of concept art. It's taken weeks to get there because you've got thumbnails and quick sketches, and you've got drill downs, and then you got down into your final piece that you want colour in and shading, etc. So if we think about environment art, I've lost my flow, I'm afraid. I've totally forgotten what I was talking about there. Let me go back to your question. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, so I have had a lot more composers speak to me, but I've also had quite a lot of artists speak to me. I think that generally, when you go on places like conceptart.org or the like the ModDB boards, you will see pinned topics that say, "Don't do art for free. You are not a monkey," And I agree. Don't do art for free. Revenue share, if it's a proper revenue share, it's not a 13-year-old kid that's got this idea of, we'll all have 30% and we'll do a massive MMO. If you've got someone who's thought through the project to a decent amount, bearing in mind that they're indie devs and they can't put a huge amount of effort into project management and design at the very beginning. They have to put some in. You have to put some in. I've got documents and lots of concept art, things like that, but there's only so much you can do. I think that the artist community in general downplays revenue shares, not to the extent that they're evil, but to the extent of know what you're getting into. And if there was a one-off piece of, if I needed a one-off piece of art, I'm pretty confident that I could get someone pretty quickly to do that for free. In fact, I can get some of my artist friends to do it for free, but if it was someone random, I'm sure I could find someone who wants to practice, as long as I give them the rights to use it in their portfolio. However, when it comes to a game, there has to be a certain amount of control when it comes to the intellectual property rights, and the artist you have to make sure that the artist signed them over to you, etc. And there's a lot of official stuff involved in it. When you're on a revenue share, they're essentially signing over their IP rights, if they're on the revenue share, for nothing. Luckily or unluckily, however you look at it, my concept artist at the moment is. I'm paying him a small amount, as I said. He's the only person on the team that does get paid. I'm considering another paid concept artist at the moment, but only because all of the modelers need them. They need concept art, and I'm struggling to find someone. I think maybe the music community, having been involved in the music community locally at least, and online to an extent, it's a little bit more disparate. It's disconnected. Disparate. I'll say that word again and hopefully it'll make sense. It's not as the artist community, there's certain boards that you go on to get work. The music community, you're begging for work, and musicians have exactly the same problem. I have been a musician trying to make money in the past, and I ran a recording studio for a while, but that recording studio made just enough to get by. It never made any money for me. I could never live off it. It was a side thing that I did on top of my work. And every single person that came into that studio wanted stuff for free. They wanted everything for free if they could get it. And the same goes for when people speak to individual musicians, and I'm talking about people who are who do session work. You know, go down to a studio and they've spent their entire career learning how to read sheet music and everything else. And you know, they can play not chords. They can play chord charts and things like that. And they're people who are very, very, very skilled, but they still struggle to get work because I don't know. The community's not as bound together. There's a lot more. Everyone seems to be more separate in music to me. There doesn't seem to be as much collaboration and let's get it on. You know, let's get on involved. Everyone wants to be in a band so they can be famous. Most people. Not everyone, you know, it's a daft thing to say. Because I mean, I didn't want to get famous. I'm sure there's plenty of other people like that. But generally, there seems to be a lot of egos involved. Whereas art, I haven't seen an ego with an artist yet, and I'm sure they're there. But I haven't seen someone go, "I'm amazing. I must get." You know, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe these people who come along and the musicians or the composers who sorry about that. Who come along and say they'll do things for free. A lot of the stuff that I see is quality as well. I'm kind of going around in circles here. I'm kind of going around in circles here. Sorry, guys. Let's see what else you said while I was wittering on. I was worried about not being able to speak to myself for an hour. You know, in fact, it's an hour already. Maybe I should. I could probably close this down. I'll just read a few more of your comments and. Right. Yes. Sorry. No comments at the moment that I can read out. But anyway, so let's move on. I'll try and wrap this up pretty quickly, hopefully. I was in the middle of talking about managing remote workers anyway, and one of the things is keeping them interested, keeping them going, giving them interest in work. Unfortunately, there is going to be a lot of boring work as well, but keeping people motivated and giving them the tools that they need. As a team leader, you need to be able to provide this to them. That is your responsibility, especially if you're the project lead as well as a team leader, because you're responsible for the design essentially of the game as well. So you know you have to provide that to them. And yeah, as I said, dealing with workflow blockages, making sure that everyone's got everything that they need. Now, I'll just mention the tools that we use in our team. Obviously, there's email, you know, and there's I've already mentioned Google Groups, Skype, and Google Hangouts. We use them both for different things. Skype tends to be a little bit better for quality, but not as reliable. Google Hangouts is better for reliability, but isn't very good quality. So it's kind of hard to do that. But as I said, I tend to record certain sessions as well, especially the team meetings, and put them up on YouTube as a private feed and give everyone a link to it. I don't use this for the indie dev, but there's a lot of services out there like that. There's a service called I Done This, and I think it's a paid service, I believe. I don't think there's any free version of it, but I'm sure there's. I mean, I could write something as a developer, as a web developer. I could write something that does similar. And all it is at the end of the day, it emails everybody on the team with a list of things that people have done that day. So instead of what you do is you get an email at 4 o'clock or whatever time you decide to receive the email. You fill in the email, tell everybody else what you've done, bullet points, line per, essentially a line per task or whatever, and then you send the email. Everyone then gets an email at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or whatever, or 9 o'clock the day after, whatever you want to set it. And that tells you what everyone's done, because everyone replies to this email every day. I use that with my clients when they suggest it. But it's really good. I find it really helpful to know that someone's been on with things that day. It's worth having a look at, and I'm sure there are free versions out there if you need a free version. So yeah, I'll just quickly go through the comments again, because there's a few more, and then I'll wrap up. Sorry if I have rambled a little bit, guys. I've tried to keep it as concise as possible. I'm doing my best, and it is my first time hosting a show on my own without any kind of nothing else going on in my ears. I've got my headphones on, but I don't need them on. I don't know why they're on. Yeah, so Bounty X Bandits just said, if you're good at something, never do it for free. Now, yes and no. I am a developer that's been. I'm not going to say I'm great, because I don't believe I'm great. I'm good enough at my job to get good compensation for my skills. I won't program something for free from anybody. However, I'm programming this game for free, but it's my project. If I found another project in indie dev, say this one failed, we stopped producing, or we launch it and I don't want to continue the studio or anything like that, then say for example someone gives me an interesting project and says, do you want to get involved? I probably would, because I'd be learning, but only if I was learning, and only if I was given creative control. That's important to me. I'd rather that they invested trust in me than just told me what to do, because I wouldn't be interested. I wouldn't do something for free if someone was telling me what to do. That's one of the reasons that my team, even though some people want to be told what to do, I am asking them to get involved and give me their input and kind of direct the workflow. Even though I'm trying to keep it constrained, I'm still giving them a lot of free rein, and I think that's an important part of it. Norglace says, I'm a designer. People really don't want to pay me. They expect me to do it for free. I do it for free as well. I do think I am stupidly nice because I need to make a living. So now I have changed my view, and I do charge a small sum, as it does take hours of my life. Now, when you say designer, what kind of designer are you though, Norglace? Because there's lots of different types of designers. Now, as a game designer, I wouldn't design a game for free and give it to someone else. I'm designing games for me, you know? As an artist, as a designer in terms of an artist, then you're a little bit more, you're a little bit more kind of constrained by what the client wants, I suppose. So it makes a big difference, I think, what kind of designer you are. But I mean, I don't know. I kind of agree that you shouldn't do anything for free, but at the same time, if the deal sounds good and you've got a good feeling about it, always trust your gut when it comes to it. When I speak to people, I'm always very, look, I wouldn't do this, but if you want to get involved, this is what my whole mantra for indie game dev is, if I can't find someone who wants to get involved with exactly the terms that we've set in the team, who doesn't want to sign an NDA, if I can find someone who wants to sign an NDA, is happy with the contract in general, I don't mind obviously minor modifications and things like that, but generally the revenue share contract is what it is, and they want to get involved in a team and collaborate with people and speak to people on Skype and all this, team working stuff. Basically, they want a part-time job that they don't get paid for until the product launches. Then good, get them on board, get them invested, get them working on it. If they if they've got any kind of issue with it, or they don't want to do that, then don't get involved. If you can imagine it, that person exists in the world. So there's always going to be someone who will help you out. I've happened to have found two modelers who are very receptive, and they're very team-based. They're very interested in working. They understand everything. I've laid it all out on the line. I've said that there is a potential that we could not make any money here. There's a potential that we could make loads of money here. There's a potential we could make just enough to pay costs, And I don't want anyone to do it for the money. That's the thing. I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it for a passion. But if, for example, someone is running a full-time studio and they have the capacity to pay other people other people that they believe deserve paying. Say, for example, someone, a game designer comes along and goes, right, I need a programmer, an artist, and a composer. I also need a modeler, right? I'm going to pay the modeler because he needs to be in-house and he's going to do a lot. I'm going to pay the programmer because he's going to be involved in nearly everything. I'm going to pay the 2D artist because he's going to be around, but I'm not going to pay the concept artist because they're not going to be around for ages. Or I might pay them like a little amount, and then I'm not going to pay the composer because it's music, innit? It's unacceptable. That's unacceptable because they've been selective. Everyone on my team, with the exception of the concept artist, which I've explained to everybody, is on the revenue share, and they're on exactly the same percentage, and they're on exactly the same deal. Everyone is the same. The artist, the concept artist, to validate this further, I actually got him before anybody else, and I took him on expecting to only actually need to get a few pieces of concept art. Unfortunately, I've realised that we need a lot of concept art, so I am now paying, well, I'm paying him the same, exactly as it was, a very small amount per piece. I am considering it a hobby cost to myself. It is going to come out of the project costs at the end, but it's not, it's not, no one else has to pay this. And that's kind of where my percentage comes into it, if you know what I mean. I'm obviously going to have a little bit more than everyone else because I'm the game designer, the programmer, the script writer, everything else apart from the art, essentially. But everyone's aware of the situation, and I'm being honest with everybody. I'm saying it on air, live to everybody. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on in chat now. I'm actually, what do you think, Gwent? Do you reckon I should continue or not? Let me know one way or the other, because I could keep talking about this and I can keep answering these questions, but I think it's probably, if you think I should probably end, I will do. But anyway, as I said, I was talking about the tools that we use. We've got Google Groups, Google Hangouts, lots of Google stuff, to be fair. Google provide a lot of stuff for free, but watch their terms, because we use Google Drive as well for some of the source control stuff. We also work with Git. If any of you are aware of what source control, not aware of what source control is, source control is it's a way for teams to collaborate. What you do is you get a local copy of your project, essentially, and you work with that, and then you check things into a central server. Places like GitHub provide that. We use Bitbucket because Bitbucket is free for up to 5 people. Excuse me. I'm fine for time, Gwints. I can go on forever. I've obviously should be doing indie dev, but I do love to talk as well. And if people are still interested, then I'll still go with it. But yeah, so where was I talking about? Git, source control. So yeah, our source control systems we've got quite an elaborate source control system, because we've got Git doing all of the source code, all of the text-based stuff, and then we've got Google Drive doing all of the binary stuff. So we've got models, textures, animations, anything that's huge. We've already got like 3 gigs worth of stuff in there. But look at the terms, the Google terms, before you use Google Drive. It seems to be the best deal in terms of monetary value. You can get 15 gig free, I think, and then after that it's like $1.99 per gig or something like that, or per 10 gig or 100 gig. I can't remember, but it's really cheap in comparison to everything else that we've looked at, such as Dropbox and various other online file collaboration things. Yeah, I am very thirsty. In fact, my brew's going cold. So yeah, so we use Git, Google Drive, and just communicating with each other. I'm going to wrap it up now, because there's a few things I need to say before we get off. Thanks to everybody again for being supportive for this first session. I'll read through the rest of your comments after I've finished. But yeah, so there's a few notes that Josie's asked me to point out. Indie devs have until August the 10th to submit for the Left Field collection for the EGX London. I've just had a quick look at this. I'm not really getting involved in expos and things like that at the moment, or I'm going to shows occasionally, but I'm not really doing any. I'm not showing the game off because it's not in a state yet. But I believe you get exposure to 80,000 people. I'll post a link to the application form and a gamesindustry.biz article I read about it. And here's the application form. I believe it's just an opportunity for you to get a stand and show what your game is, etc. Get on it, have a look at it. Just briefly go over the other shows that MMOBuff have. I'm just involved in the Datamine, but every other day, 8 o'clock PM, they have other shows going on, mostly focused around MMO, online gaming culture. I've watched a few of them. It's usually people talking, people bouncing off. Quite a lot of characters, quite a lot of personalities there. And I'm sure Josie's going to be back at some point soon, hopefully. But as I said, I don't think anyone's going to rush her because she's laid up with her back and that. So yeah, Mondays at 8 o'clock. You've got the MMO Buff podcast. That's discussing today's online gaming and MMOs in general. Tuesday at 8 PM, you've got the Campfire. That's discussion around the gaming guilds and communities. I've watched a few of those, quite interesting, even as someone who's not into MMOs anymore these days. I spent way too much time playing World of Warcraft when I was younger. Wednesday at 8 o'clock, you've got the Blizzard Forecast, which is all things Blizzard. I believe they do giveaways and things like that on that show. They probably do giveaways on other shows as well, but I haven't seen them all. Probably should. The Thursday 1 PM is this one, as you're aware. Hopefully next week will be a bit better, a bit more structured, and you won't have a guy in a green t-shirt and a big beard rambling at you for an hour and a bit. We usually try to get guests on these shows. I did try to get a guest today, but we had communication problems with Skype, etc., and whatever else we were trying. But yeah, we usually have people from the industry. We've got quite a few people coming up. Nothing confirmed yet, so I can't really say it. But some of the talks that we're talking about are some of them are quite in depth. Some of them are quite exciting. Some of them are in-depth technology stuff, and I'm quite looking forward to it, especially to hear other people's opinions and bounce them around the team. On Fridays, we've got Cosmotronic, which is dedicated to WildStar. I've had a quick look at WildStar, and I loved the video I watched. I watched a couple of intro videos. It looks like it's right up my street, but I just don't have time to play MMOs at the moment. I wish I could, because I'd love to get involved with the MMO buff lot and be a newbie and get involved in raids and guild stuff. But yeah, it's not going to happen, unfortunately. And on Saturday at 8 o'clock, you've got Top Draw, which is online TCGs, CCSs, and SCGs. And CCSs isn't me. That's my initials, strangely. It's online card games. Things like the only card I think Hearthstone is a card game. Probably digging a hole here, but at the end of the day, it's I'm not into the card games, but there's a lot of discussion going on Saturdays at 8 o'clock. On top of that as well, we've got the Game Jam that we're talking about. If any of you want to get involved with the Game Jam, you don't have to have experience in Game Jam. In all likeliness, it's probably going to be. We keep saying that if you've got experience in UE4 and Unity and all the other engines, just come on down, have a go. We're probably, because me and Danny are all going to be on separate teams for this Game Jam, we're probably going to be doing it in Unity, I would imagine. But that doesn't mean if you're an artist or you're a composer, you can't get involved still. Ideas, things like that. Email Josie. I think it's Josie at MMOBuff. Josie at MMOBuff.TV, I believe. If you email her, she's organising the Game Jam. It's going to be in a few months' time, 4 months, 5 months, or whatever. There's a lot of stuff going on at the moment, obviously, as you can tell. So yeah, again, another thing. If any of you are interested in coming on the show, talking to people like me, Josie, Danny, we tend to organise a show around other people. So if you've got a particular subject that you want to come on and talk about, you think it's engaging, you think it's interesting enough to talk about, and people will come back, then send an email to Josie again. Again, if you want to just talk to me, I'll forward on details to Josie. It's just that I obviously do the indie dev full time, and Josie's the MMO buff star, And yes, so the last thing is you can find MMO Buff on many social media sites. Twitter is at MMO Buff. Facebook is /MMO Buff. YouTube, MMO Buff, and Twitch is also, as you probably are aware and watching this on, is MMO Buff, or you could be on YouTube. Either way. Yeah, so thanks for watching, guys, and hopefully I won't mess up this final transition into the intro music, I believe. So thanks for having me, and I'll catch you all next week, hopefully. See you later.